Welcome to ATB TV. I'm Darren Dance here with Peter Morganti. Had an historical week last week, Pete. No runners, not one runner went around for ATB last week after we scratched South Pacific from both the Sydney and Melbourne race, primarily due to the track at Flemington being just a little bit hard and the feeling that the horse wasn't quite over or ready to go. So just while we're on South Pacific, he'll probably either run at Flemington next weekend or he'll be held up and go to Sydney for that 2-mile race. Either way, I think we're going to have wet tracks now, what we've experienced in Victoria and I guess across the country. Even those Queenslanders are whinging that it's down to 18, Pete, so we'd be happy to see 18. At the moment we've probably got that up to top temperature of 3 days to get 18.
I reckon it's the old 10 degrees feels like -1.
Yeah, we've had the Antarctic vortex hit the east coast and wild winds and heavy rain right up the east coast for us, but hopefully we're about to come out of it here on Thursday afternoon. But no runners. The only other thing of highlight this week was we sold Naval Warfare online after a disappointing preparation. He was aimed at the Warrnambool Cup but really didn't fire, so he left the team this week and has gone on to a new trainer in Sydney. So, but coming up, Pete, we think we've got some runners.
We've got some accepted.
Righto.
Here in Australia and abroad.
And abroad.
And abroad.
Finally, Melburnians.
It's amazing what 2 or 3 days could do if I'd swiveled that camera around, Darren. South Pacific would be running around on a heavy 10 in the backyard.
Yeah, there's a bit of water lane there.
Yeah, so anyway. So we're coming up to, and I feel sorry for this club, the Swan Hill Carnival are going to be crowdless for the 2nd year running. And I mean, you just think back to Warrnambool, how lucky they were.
Yeah. Obviously,
COVID breakout in town, and it's yeah, it must affect a little town, Swan Hill, like to have cop it 2 years in a row. And people were going 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it was booked out.
It was, the whole town's booked out. All of a sudden now there's no one going.
Yeah.
And I see they're, I think they're going to have 150 on course.
They'll just get enough
in total
in the Elstrom bar. That'll be it.
That's in total.
Yeah.
So that's workers, officials, and crowds. I think about 75 owners per day.
Yeah.
Disappointing, whichever way you look at it, and
especially when they've never had a case there right through the 15 months.
I don't know what the impact financially would be on the town. It'd be horrendous because you know, every bit of accommodation's booked out for Swan Hill and right around there, and restaurants would have been booked out. You know, a lot of staff would have been organised, a lot of food would have been bought in, and
we've generally gone the last 8 years prior to the last 2, and
so
it was hard to get us seating anywhere for teas.
And it's a great 3 days. You know, it's probably runs a close second to Warrnambool.
Yeah.
You know, I would have thought so. And we've had a bit of luck there in the Golden Tocas and those sort of races, but not to be this year. But we do have a runner.
We do have a runner, and we've got to promise one of our promising horses in Crackerjack Prince. Obviously, was going to run today, but heavy track, moved to the synthetic. We're going to avoid that stuff with a nice horse like him. He goes to a benchmark 70 over a mile, so it's a step from a maiden, but he's a progressive type of horse that we feel he can run very well and take that step.
Yeah, well, he won well first up, just did enough there at Bendigo, so he's 3 starts for a first and 2 seconds, $4 in the market. I think there was only 10 or might have only been 9 runners.
Yep.
There's another old season gelding there that's at about $3 something favourite, so he's second favourite. I think he'll firm in.
Yeah.
He's probably one with, you know, a little bit more upside. He's only lightly raced. He's shown that he's a competitor. He's not a horse that's going to win by a big margin ever. He only does what he has to.
That style of track will suit him.
I think the big, long 450 metre straight there should give him every hope with Declan Bates. But once again, he's not going to be winning by big margins, I wouldn't have thought. But, you know, we'd like to ideally go there and win, obviously, and then see if we can get him into the city for the owner's sake, his sake, and for the stay-in's sake, which we've got a share in as well, Crackerjack King himself. So there's a fair bit riding on this, but looking forward to seeing him at Swan Hill tomorrow, and it'd be nice to have a runner after a week and a half.
Yeah, exactly. I think that form line I like out of it's a horse that beat us out here at Ballarat called Redwood. I think it prices Redwood County. it started near enough to favourite at Flemington last week. So, you know, that we're building to that. He's obviously had an uninterrupted prep, but that form line's pretty strong for a race at Swan Hill. So if he just improves off Bendigo, I think he'll be round about.
Let's hope.
We did have Periscope going up there, but Pat, after accepting at Edenhope in a race that was split, meaning that it's probably been diluted to a very weak race, albeit back to 2000, he's elected to go to the weaker race, which is a 58, as opposed to a 2400 metre 64, which there was a bit of strength in that race. It's just a pity that the Edenhope race is probably not 22.
Yeah.
24, but
well, that's our biggest concern, isn't it? We drop back into a lower grade race, but we do drop back in distance. We also lose the services of Dean Yendall that we would have had at Swan Hill. So whilst there's some positives around the class we're running against, I think there's some obvious negatives in that we're running back to 2000, which may be a touch short. You know, in fairness to the rider, no Dean Yendall, and that track, I'm not really a fan of that tight track. So I'm not sure.
Was it Sonata that he got beaten, or was it a real tight track? They're very similar type tracks.
I'm not sure where the rain fell and what that track will be, but yeah, I think this horse probably needs to show us something here to warrant, you know, going on with him long term. I think if he's only going to be whacking around in Provincial 2, 58 races, tuning up training fees, and you know, he needs to be winning. Otherwise, you know, he's something that we need to look at his future, because you know, he may not be going as good as he was, Pete. That might be a little bit harsh at the moment, but I'm prepared to give him 2 more runs. I've told Pat that, and then we'll talk to the owners after those 2 runs to see if, well, it may take care of itself, or it might be a situation where we just need to move him on.
I think if he can win Saturday, you probably say, well, we'll give him 2 cracks at a 64.
Yeah, he gets a repair.
Yeah, if you don't measure up, you move on, because that's the grade you're going to have to tackle. So, I probably went one step too far. In between those 2 runners, we can go abroad. We can go to Limerick in Ireland.
So you reckon we go on Saturday night?
I had a look on Racing Post. He still wasn't in the entries for Friday, but he was in the entries for Saturday. So I'd say they do it different over there. You've got to pull your horse out, the remaining ones, and then they do a ballot if they have to. So there's 33 left.
Yeah, you don't accept as such, you withdraw as such. So you're in until you're out. So, and then I think they wait to the last minute based on the rain and the field, and then they
well, he's withdraw. Number 5 of the 33, and that's in terms of weight. Right. So he's guaranteed a run. It's 2300. He's second up.
Yeah, well, we don't, you know, we don't know. Obviously, we haven't spoke to the trainer this week, so other than only getting a text to say that she was definitely going to be running this weekend. So we'll let the owners know prior to. But once again, you know, second up, we probably think improvement after this run. That definitely needs it wet. So if it's not wet, it won't run. I would think he's starting to get a bit fitter, but I wouldn't be rushing out, putting my money on this weekend at this point.
No. So as we sit here, they'll be sleeping, so I would say in about 6 or 8 hours' time we'll have the fields. And I'll send that out to the owners. Monday, I don't know where they are, I think it's synthetic again. Tuesday, I'm not sure. Wednesday, and we haven't got runners. Wednesday, Sea Princess. Look forward to this, stepping out to a mile, 3-year-old company. I think it's benchmark 70 level, but...
And what track are we going to?
Sandown.
Well, I'll be really interested to see here whether they run her, given that our last start was on a heavy track, and it was reported that, okay, second up, probably too short, but
she did
does not handle the heavy. Now, I can't see, based on what I've seen the last few days, Sandown drying out enough, but hope I'm wrong.
If it was Fleming, there would be a chance.
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll run her at Sandown on the heavy, if it is heavy. Maybe if it comes back to a slow, they might run her. But, you know, she's ready to fire. She's ready to show what she's got now. So if she goes there and it's heavy, well, I'd be surprised if they run her. They might keep her another day. But she's a big striding filly, doesn't really seem to get through the wet. And here we are in the middle of July, or June. And we're probably up against it a little bit. But anyway, they'll make the right call. We'll just have to be patient and wait and see if they run. But my gut feeling is if it's wet, she won't.
It's bloody hard because we're not seeing the sun. It's that cold. Nothing dries anyway. No. So that's then. That's Wednesday. Thursday, obviously that's 7 days away. But Sunburn, 1300. There's two options: a 1458, which she'll have to carry about 61 and a half, or come back 100 to 13, go to a benchmark 64, and carry 3 kilos less. Which I think Matthew's opting that way because we're going to probably have a heavy track down there too. And that would be a jump in trip from 11 to 13, which looks like will suit her based on what we've seen at Hamilton last start.
Yeah, I think so. Warrnambool we're talking about. So I'm not really sure whether Warrnambool got all the rain we got, because most of the rain came in from the east. Obviously Gippsland copped it, Melbourne copped it, and right up through where we are and Ballarat and north of the Divide. Whether it wrapped around down to well, I'm not sure, but it's normally pretty wet there this time of year. Look, I think Sunburn's crying out for 1300. I think we saw last time she's really switching off and settling now, and she's rattling to the line, and she just needs that nice long straight at Warrnambool, flat track. I think it'll suit her. I hope she goes to the 13. I'd be happy to see her in the 14, but she's genuine. She tries really hard. She's been around the money. I think she's a win in a couple of seconds. She's knocking on the door in this grade, and I think there's a couple of wins in her. And then the secret to her will be if we can get her out to a mile, her future will be extended with us. If she's limited to sort of 13, 14s, then probably as she gets up in grade, she'll get to a level where she's just going to be another horse in the race and whacking around, running 4ths and 5ths until the rating goes down, and then you can drop back that grade. So once again, we'll just have to monitor this situation, but I will say that I think Maddie Williams done a great job with it, getting her to settle. If you remember early on in the career, she was up there pulling and tugging for the lead. Now she's probably gone a little bit too far the other way. She switched right off, gone to sleep, and she's out the back charging home. So it's amazing how a different training environment can change the way a horse races and competes. But she's hardly been out of the money, and she's a good little fun country horse for those owners. And we're looking forward to seeing what she can do at Warrnambool next week.
A couple of examples there, like Madam Mischief with Pat Ryan, similar, isn't it? I think it's a lot to nothing. I mean, their techniques are probably similar, but it's the environment certainly helps that type of that style of horse. Living
out in the paddock, just being a horse with a mate certainly does calm them down. I think there's probably an element of maturity as well. As they mature and they learn to settle and relax.
Well, they're both, those two horses are only 3-year-olds. So.
Well, we've seen how you've relaxed as you've got older.
We're looking at our Dan Dinos that are getting to the races as 3.5-year-olds.
That's right.
And these have been in the system for a while, probably still maturing.
Yep. And there's one other runner at Warrnambool.
Yeah, Intense. We're talking about another 3-year-old he's like a big gangly kangaroo, this bloke. But we get out to 2,000, back on a track that he raced well on during the carnival. It's a high weight, so riders are going to be probably a jumps jockey.
Yep.
We have mentioned a couple while we're sitting here, but I think just out to 2,000 in that company, he'd want to be winning.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Geelong never worked out, obviously.
No, well, for some reason he was sitting up outside the leader, and then weakened out of it. But I think Warrnambool, the wet track, the big straight, he run really well at Warrnambool over the carnival. So hopefully, he's back midfield or worse, and he's getting to the outside.
Riding similar.
Then to get out wide, so he can stretch those big long legs.
I think he
try and power to the line.
Looks like he's a horse that he'd chase better than being.
Yeah, I think he's a momentum horse. Yeah, he just needs to get out wide and power to the line. And there's a couple of good races in him because he ran second at the carnival to a horse that was ended up going to the day.
No, it's had a run since and ran okay, but it didn't go north.
But, but it looked pretty impressive. And we were probably the only one that day to make ground. So
it's in again today, that horse, Voltage Spike.
Okay, so we've got the ability. He's immature. He's probably going to peak in the next 12 months, but he's a nice star in the making, and he's just learned his craft. And to be honest, Pat's probably still learning about him. Only had him for the one prep. So, looking forward to seeing what he can do down at Warrnambool next Thursday. Hopefully there's no more rain, and we don't get switched to a synthetic or something stupid like that. So,
please, 64 scratchings today, Darren.
Yeah,
Ballarat was turf, went to synthetic,
well,
64.
Mate, if I was a horse, I wouldn't want to be running either.
Isn't that voting on your bloody, like the trainers are saying, we don't want, well, obviously they would have ran if they thought they could win. 64 of them decided to stay home.
Well, I suppose at the end of the day, you know, we all know it's wet and cold in Victoria at this time of year, so we all have our wet track horses in.
Yeah.
And then the tracks get too wet and we go to synthetic, which doesn't suit a lot of horses. So then they don't want to run them. They want to save them for another wet day on the grass. And then, of course, what happens is when that next suitable race comes around, there's about 75 horses entered for it. So there's a backlog, if you like. So synthetic's got its place, and I understand that. But I think a lot of these tracks, you know, they are race tracks, you know. And there's enough of them across the state that we should be able to just race once here and then leave that track alone through the rest of winter and go to another track. So I'm not sure that racing at Warrnambool in July or Ballarat 4 times in winter,
Unless they're jumps, of course,
you know, on the flat is the right strategy. I think it needs to be looked at. There's enough courses in this state to spread it around a bit, and I just don't know whether the way it is at the moment is the best model.
We go and trial at half these joints 3 or 4 times a year, and they race once. Like, I mean,
well, we
it's good enough
talked
for
about
trial.
we talked about a lot of these tracks that.
Well, one of our trainers he popped a tweet out. One of our trainers, trained Sunburn, said there's enough synthetic racing. I'm presuming that Warrnambool's sitting up there nice and unused today, which is a great point. Yeah, it would be the perfect winter track.
Warrnambool, Donald,
Matawa,
the little Mill track. Mildura, okay, we're going to Swan Hill. Echuca's up there. Anything north of the Divide, one would think. But anyway, the powers that be, that's the way it is.
And I mean, like you said, it didn't just drop out of the sky unexpected. From Sunday, we knew. We knew that. They used to be proactive.
The vortex was
when
coming.
there was that synthetic thing wasn't there, they were proactive. Sometimes they got it wrong and it might have rained, but I think if you move it and you get it wrong, it doesn't matter because you're still going to race on a good track. If you don't move it and then leave it to the last minute, well, you're going to get 70 scratchings.
Well, things have changed.
Yeah.
You know, and the turnover will be down today.
Oh, well, you're betting on some races, not even each way, you know.
In the old days, it would have been just called off or moved. So, anyway, that's what it is. That's where we are in life now. So things have changed. There's different people running the operation. So,
but anyway, there are runners.
There are runners.
We've got a chance or two. Crackerjack Prince, Sunburn, Periscope, and
they'll be competitive.
all of them. Yeah,
they'll be competitive.
Multi.
They will. This week's project, Pete.
We had response on last week's little tickle you gave everyone at the back of it about the Dandino weanlings. Yep.
So we've got a few. As you know, we own shares in the stay in Dandino, and we race quite a few of them. And as someone said to me this morning, I'm happy to go in one as long as you don't call it Dandy something. So it's too confusing.
I know who that was.
Because we've got Dandy Classic, we've got Dandy Man, we've got Quick and Dandy, we've got Dangelica, we've got all these dandies.
Dandianas,
Shine and Dandy.
Maybe we have to get a little bit more selective with your names.
So stay tuned this week. There will be an email coming out. We do have some weanlings there that some owners will be able to go into at a very, very good price. There will be a little bit of a wait on them, obviously, but the price reflects that. Yeah. So wait for that email to come out, which will be going out when?
You'll have it before the weekend.
Right, Friday.
Your people that are watching this will know that it's coming out, but it'll come out once I get a little bit of a video together and send out the pricing.
All right, so that's coming along. Apart from that, there's not a great amount of news. Obviously, we're in the depths of winter here now, and a lot of our spring horses have just gone back in. Some of our other horses were due to trial this week, but unfortunately the trials got called off at Mortlake, so those 3 horses didn't get to trial. No. And we're talking about Mr. Moneybags and Write Your Name and Cracksman. So we'll have to wait another couple of weeks for those guys to hit the track.
All going good.
Yeah, no, they're all coming along fine, and it's just hard yards at the moment in the racing industry with the weather. So that's where we are for winter. But spring's not far around the corner, 6 or 8 weeks, and we'll be into August, and then the days start to lengthen, and we start to get a bit of sunshine, and then we start to see those good early races coming around. So it's all going to happen really quickly, but just for the next month, we're going to be enjoying this Antarctic blast heat. So I know the farm's very wet at the minute, and we've got a few horses in for education, and I think the ones that have been left in the paddocks would be saying, hang on, what about me? So
Yeah.
but I'm going to wrap it up there, because no use just talking for the sake of talking.
I'll put out. We did send out some trophies to what do you call it? Trophies that horses have won. That's gone to owners. So get your bids in. You got till 4 o'clock tomorrow. The Write Your Name owners and the Dandino owners.
Yep.
And that's a flashback to 2015 when he won the Queen's Cup. Talking about the old boy himself.
Yeah. Well, I had a bit of a clean up in the office yesterday, and
I noticed that.
Came across these trophies that were sitting there ready to go to the auction at our Christmas function, which obviously hasn't happened, and it's probably unlikely to happen again this year by the looks of things. So we thought we might as well get them out there now and let the owners get them on their shelf and enjoy them. So and the money will come off training fees, will go to marketing or charity, whatever we've decided. But there is a few trophies there to go out. So
a couple of polo tops too there. XL. If you're an XL,
yep.
30 odd bucks, $35 will mail out. I think there's 3 shirts left. So
yep. So there's a bit happening.
Similar style.
Bit happening. And thanks for all your orders on the web. The third-party provider of that merchandise, he's been run off his feet. So
I think we've got to the top of the pile there as new client in.
Yeah, so lots of hoodies have been ordered and lots of hats with horses' names on it. So if you haven't had a look at the website and you haven't gone to the merchandise page, just go to our website and click on the merchandise page and have a look, and you can place your order there. And they're pretty slick. I think they get that merchandise out within a couple of days.
Well, they say 7 to 10, but most are getting it within the week.
Yeah,
so.
And the quality is apparently very, very good. We've had excellent feedback on it, so
and
very efficient. And
don't be scared on the what do you call it? The sizing is a true sizing.
Yeah,
so
proper specs.
Yeah, we do. You know, sometimes it might be a bit neat or a bit tight, but with feedback from other people that are in with them as well, like Malua Racing, the feedback is the sizing's pretty true.
Yeah,
so.
I think they run a very slick operation here.
Yeah.
What's their name?
Fanfave. Fanfave.com is their site.
Yeah. So they've got links on most racing websites now, and this business will take off because they're very slick and very good at it. And I understand the guy that runs it was an ex-jockey, and he's come up with a really, really good idea. So good on him, and it's good to have some merchandise out there. So thanks for your supporting and ordering it, and hopefully you're happy with the products that you get. I know Liz is happy that she doesn't have to do it, because it was a massive exercise.
Cuts the middleman
and just holding all that stock. So
no, for sure.
Anyway, it's good. All right, well, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to wrap it up, and have a great weekend. Stay warm. I think in Melbourne, 25k limit. They're going to have, I was just listening to news on the way in, they'll certainly be doing number plate recognition and highway patrol cars out in force, making sure people don't exceed that 25
Cops will be loving that in this weather.
Yeah, well, I noticed that yesterday they were pulling them up on the freeway as I was coming into Ballarat, and I thought, well, that guy wasn't speeding. Why'd they pull him up? It must have been a Melbourne number plate. So they're right onto it.
Stay home for another week and we're just about through it.
Oh, let's hope so, Pete, but it's a long haul now, and it's really hurting the economy, and it's all got to come back to bite us one day, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm Darren Dance here with Peter Morganti. Have a great weekend, stay warm, and one day very soon, we're going to be back at the races.